Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at two very overpowered teams around Greninja. Here, the first team going to be one that I also played already last season and it's still very strong, if not even stronger. We're going to have here the Dugong as a say swap, the Greninja in the back, which shares the typing, like the weakness against the typing fighting, which is going to be fine because your lead is going to be okay against it. And then you're going to have, of course, the lead of Deoxys defense, allowing you to beat the Medicham fairly easily with this Pokemon, as well as just a great lead overall in the current meta. You're going to have play against the Alone Sandslash with every Pokemon. You have play against nearly any Pokemon anywhere with this team, which makes it so strong. And honestly, this is definitely the more of a try-hard team if you want to try out something very overpowered. The other team that you're going to see later on, definitely stay tuned for that one, going to be a little bit spicier with a very spicy say-swap where you're going to use Greninja in the lead. So definitely stay tuned for that one. Otherwise, of course, if you're here, feel free to leave a like on the video. Would appreciate it if you enjoy those two teams in one video, which I think a lot of people really enjoyed recently. So I kind of want to up the quality more of the videos and down the quantity of videos. Mainly because I started doing my master, so you're going to most likely see over the next few months and like maybe over like a few years as well, then a little bit less of videos, but hopefully a little bit more quality, different kind of teams, more of a top team and like a little bit more refined, which I think is the better approach anyway. So if you enjoyed this type of content where we see two teams, feel free to leave a like as you're going to be able to win the first game. So let's take a look at the next game. We're going to have the Medicham in the lead, exactly where you kind of want to have it. We're going to run the Thunderbolt variant of Deoxys, and I always get like comments about the IVE spread. This is not ideal. You kind of don't want to have 15 attack on this Pokemon. You're going to lose the matchup. I think against Azumarill you can lose the matchup now. It's not the biggest deal, but it's not ideal. That was just the only Deoxys that I had back in the day when I built it first. Next up, going to be here the Lickitung swapping in. We can go for with Psycho Boost, do a ton of damage, and swap into our Greninja, which can now do a ton of damage with the move, what's called the Hydro Cannon, of course. As we're going to be able to shield up one move there, that was clearly a body slam. I should have let this move go through, but still going to be okay, as you can still just let this move go through. This time around, it's definitely going to be just the body slam, and I should be able to farm them all the way down, which is going to be amazing for me, because now I have two Hydro Cannons stored, and I'm definitely still going to be able to survive a counter, and this is the great thing about Greninja. Greninja, in this case, is going to be able to just outspam the opponent, do so much damage against them if they would let it go, but they decide to just shield both of them, allowing me now to have a scenario where I can still go for a Psycho Boost here, get a ton of damage against the Medicham. I don't think it actually does knock them out yet. Exactly, and we're going to have now a one shield advantage against the opponent's final Pokemon. It's not really ideal for us, but since the Dugong now learns the move Drill Run, the matchup against the Bastion is so much better for you. Honestly, I could have maybe even went for one Icy Wind first and then went for the Drill Run, because now they're going to be able to farm me all the way down, but they don't even decide to do this. They're going to go for the charge move here. I could have shielded this move up if I wanted to, but I'm going to decide to use my Deoxys in order to win this game, which works out super well for me, and we're going to be able to take this next game as well. So let's move on into the next game. We're going to encounter the Shadow Steelix in the lead. This is a tough one, because your fast move damage is going to add up quite a bit with the Deoxys, but of course your charge moves don't do damage at all. So I'm going to just take one charge move there and just going to swap out now into my Dugong. If you go for one counter before you're swapping out, you're going to align it so you can get a free fast move in later on with your Dugong if the opponent throws. So that's something that I would recommend you to do. Go for one counter before you swap out after the opponent's charge move, and then swap out, because you're just going to get a free fast move with that later on when the opponent throws their breaking swipe there, which is totally fine for you. Yeah, sadly the opponent going to be able to farm you all the way down. This is going to be the hardest answer for this team. A Alolan Ninetales is tricky to play against, so we're going to let this move go through and hope that we can just win this game with our Greninja in the back, as we can just go for the Thunderbolt, try to get the knockout, and we're gonna get the knockout here, allowing us to swap out eventually, hopefully. Let's see what's coming in. It's going to be actually the Pelipper, allowing me to go for one Psycho Boost here, which is going to be nice. Now my hope is that I can sweep endgame just with my Greninja. Night Slash looks so good right now, as Night Slash should even maybe two-shot the opponent's Pelipper. Definitely comes close. Maybe I have to go for a Hydro Cannon, but now it can go still for Night Slash against the opponent's Steelix, and they're most likely going to shield this move up, and they don't, and they survive with 1 HP. And like this game going to be super tough. forcing me to use a shield here. Now Night Slash is not a 2-shot here anymore because of the debuff against us, which is really bad. So I'm forced to go for another charge move here, and I have to hope that I can outspeed the opponent. We're gonna get no shield there, of course. We're gonna get the attack buff though, and we survive with 1 HP in a dream, allowing me to get into another Night Slash here and get to even another one afterwards, out-spamming the opponent, and thanks to the boost, we were able to still win this game here, which was absolutely insane, as we can move on into the next game. We're going to have a Swampert in the lead. This is actually fairly decent for our team. We can just go for a Psycho Boost and swap out afterwards because our backline is going to be fine against it. And maybe, just maybe, I should have not shielded this move up here. Could be, of course, a bait, and it's going to be a bait here, which is a great play by the opponent. We kind of want to shield, of course, the move before you can go for the Icy Wind. Here I'm going to decide to use another shield as the opponent decides to swap into their own Skarmory. And I feel like I could have played this game a little bit better as well here. I'm gonna go straight for the next Icy Wind, which is going to get the attack drop against the opponent, which is fairly decent for me. And now I'm going to overfarm by quite a bit, and I should have swapped out here already. Deoxys was up as a potential swap option, and I should have swapped out here at least already. But I decided that I want to farm them all the way down, which was really stupid here, because I can still go for a Brave Bird, but we survived with 1 HP in a dream. The issue is, we are forced to basically get a knockout against the opponent in order to get both of our charge moves off. Because if we don't get a knockout with my first charge move basically that I'm gonna throw, there's nothing that I can do about it. Because, yeah, like you don't get the next one off because the opponent gets the free fast move, and the fast move definitely going to knock me out no matter which Pokemon they use. But luckily they decide to swap into their own Swampert here. I'm going to actually still hit most of the bubbles. I maybe should have actually went for all the bubbles, but I'm going to be able to swap out here, go for the Icy Wind to try to catch a move, and they're going to let this move go through, which is amazing for me because now they're going to be forced to throw their own charge move, as I was still able to hang on with 1 HP. I can go for the Night Slash. This Night Slash is of course going to get shielded by the opponent, but I can still reach my next one in time, and Greninja is just showing off how strong this Pokemon is. As we can see, they're gonna get the knockout here, as we can move on into the next game. Superior in the lead. This is going to be a little bit of a trickier one, because we are kind of forced to go for a Psycho Boost eventually here, but honestly, if you get the Superior fairly low, and you just take a charge move here, you're going to be okay with your backline, because Icy Wind plus Ice Shard is going to do a ton of damage against them. But if you're gonna hit this Psycho Boost here, which we don't sadly, we're going to also get them into range for just 1 Night Slash. Night Slash just around 30% against the opponent, so here sadly they are not in range for that, and they decide to swap into the Azumarill. I'm always going to go for the Icy One first. Not sure if this is actually the play, but this is going to allow me to just withstand those charge moves a little bit easier. Those play routes that are coming in are now not as threatening anymore against me. So I can just go for another charge move against the opponent here with the Drill Run, which is going to do some decent damage. But maybe I should just go straight for the Drill Run. I think 3 Drill Runs are enough to knock out an Azumarill. But like this here, we are not going to be in a decent spot, as I'm still going to go for another Drill Run here, but I might want to catch a move onto my Deoxys here, but I'm not going to be able to do this. They can still reach a charge move, which is going to be the play rough, and they can get the knockout. I'm still going to try to go into my Greninja and farm them all the way down, which turns out to be a huge mistake, because they're still going to get to a play rough here, which I did not expect at all. They survived with 1 HP there, which is really unfortunate. And like this game is kind of over. Great play by the opponent to catch the Hydro Cannon onto their Superior. I can still go for Night Slash, but yeah, honestly, this was a winnable game. I just misplayed it, but also my opponent just played it really, really well, so shouts to my opponent. Well played here. Definitely deserved to lose this battle, as my opponent was just better in this case. Like, honestly, they could have definitely still had some potential to win this game, but not like this. Definitely well played by the opponent, and we can now move on, as the opponent's Greninja is going to sweep my Greninja, but also showcasing on how strong Greninja is in the current meta. And we can take a look at the final game for the first team. I kind of always want to do around like 6 battles for one team, as we're going to now encounter the Trevenant against us. We can go for our Dugong swap immediately. Dugong wins this all the time in the 2-sheet scenario. Like, there's nothing the opponent can do about it. But they decide to swap out into their own Dugong. Again, similar to what I did with the Azumarill. I'm gonna go for an Icy Wind first, allowing me to survive those Drill Runs coming up a little bit easier now. as they're gonna go for the drill run here. Of course, I know Icy Wind is double resisted, but I'd rather take less damage from the opponent, which allows me to swap out later on and give, like, basically, yeah, that's basically, in my opinion, the better play for me. I can let this drill run go through right now, and I can just swap out now into my Deoxys, trying to get some extra energy for the opponent's Trevenant, which is going to swap in after they go for one Icy Wind here against me. This Icy Wind gonna drop my attack, and I can still go for a Psycho Boost against the opponent's Trevenant, which does around like 40% at this range because of the debuff. We would have most likely knocked them out without it, but I can even reach another one, forcing either a shield or the knockout, and we're actually gonna get the knockout, getting rid of one of our hardest answers. But also we have to welcome the Mandibuzz now, which is really bad for me, but luckily I still have a charge move stored onto my Dugong, so I can try to swap out now and go for the Icy Wind, which hopefully forces a shield from the opponent, but they have so much energy stored, which is going to make this all a little bit more awkward. I'm going to let this move go through, which is going to be the Dark Pulse, doing a ton of damage, and now I'm going to be forced to swap into my Greninja. Greninja can still definitely withstand those attacks from the opponent. I'm fairly certain that I'm going to be able to survive 2 aerial aces thanks to the debuff as well, but the opponent decides to swap out into their Dugong, forcing me to go for a Night Slash here, which is not going to get the knockout, but one more fast move is all it takes to knock out the opponent's Dugong, allowing me to also get to the Hydro Cannon here, getting the shield from the opponent, not the knockout or the damage, and I'm going to let this move go through. Or no, actually going to shield this move up. It doesn't really matter, to be fair, because I still would survive the aerial ace from the opponent. I can just go for a Hydro Cannon. We see that I'm going to not have the greatest time here, as they're gonna go for the aerial ace, but I still survive that barely. Go for the Night Slash, and this Night Slash is all it takes to win this game. And this is a very overpowered line. This is definitely the better line out of the both here, but still, this other line is totally fine to play as well and works out super well for me, and I can also highly recommend it to you. I went positive with both of them. Had some other sets in between, by the way, so like if you're wondering if you see like the Elo has changed a lot, I actually don't know if the Elo changed a lot. I didn't play those 2 sets at the same day, or like even like I had some other sets in between, as you might also see by the daytime here, as this is now a completely different day during the morning time based on the background. But we're going to have now the matchup of Charger Bug against the Superior. In general, for our team, we're going to have our lead of Greninja, which works out really well as a counter for like some steel types, but also like some rock types like the Carbink here. And then we're going to have in the back our Cresselia, which is running the standard moveset of Moonblast. You saw recently in a video where I was running the future side on Cresselia, where I had the normal Shadow Kanto Ninetales in the lead. Therefore, like, I need some answer for Charizard here. Our answer for Charizard is basically our lead of Greninja. Plus the Say Swap of the Charger Bug is going to be able to get out most likely some Charizards while still punishing them with Volt Switch as well as Discharge. So this team is totally fine against Charizard. I don't need a future side on this Cresselia here, but it's a really good Pokemon as well without it. And this team here itself was a lot of fun to play. There are of course some weaknesses for this team if you're going to run something like a Charger Bug, but I kind of want to try out this Community Day Pokemon because I feel like it's kind of underappreciated right now. Again, another Carbink swapping in. I don't know where they're all coming from right now, but honestly, I have to say, Charger Bug is a very cool Pokemon to use. Not really against Carbink and not really if you get Hardwalled, but it is so strong, much stronger than I expected, especially against something like Lickitung as well as the Medicham. I would not be shocked if I would see like one or two of them at like local tournaments or something like this, like at regionals, where I'm sadly not going to be able to participate this season either. Maybe like somewhere next year. But it's going to be fine here. We're going to get the knockout against the Carbink. Now it depends on what they're going to run in the back. They're going to have a Gligar in the back. So we are really missing the alignment here, sadly, as I'm going to be forced to use a shield against the opponent's charge move. Alignment is just not here the entire game. I can go for the bait. Hopefully they're going to use a shield here as they are going to do this, which is nice. And we're going to get the attack buff, which can be really beneficial for us. And maybe Greninja's boosting is going to help us out here again, as we are going to be forced to use a shield again against the opponent. Aerial is coming through, and the opponent still can go for a charge move with their Lickitung. But sadly, we are not running Future Sight here, because Future Sight actually would have been really cool. I think Future Sight would have put them into knockout range here, but sadly the Moonblast is not going to do the job for us, and the opponent going to be able to win this game. But it was fairly close at the end, and yeah, Carbink is just a pain. Honestly, if you swap into your Charger Bug and you get a Carbink or a Bastion against you, it's just very tough to come back from those kind of games, so good game here. Not a lot that I was really able to do in this game. So let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to have the Greninja against the Steelix. Fairly decent lead for us, and very decent that we don't have the Charger Bug against it. But at least you're going to be able to now go up against the Pelipper. You're going to see me letting the Discharge go through there against the opponent, getting the shield advantage. But I'm going to let this move go through, which seems a little bit weird. But they're going to go for the Weather Ball, and I see already they can take another Weather Ball as well, which is going to be amazing for me, because I can just go for the full farm down and win this game with a shield advantage, with switch advantage, and some damage onto the opponent's Steelix, as I can still go for the Exeter. Exeter, as well as the Discharge, is by the way doing the exact same amount of damage in total, like they do both have 65 power. So if both are neutral, always go for Exeter. There's no real reason to go for the Discharge if like both fast moves are charge moves are neutral. Here we're going to go up against a Superior, which is something that's a little bit awkward to do, because Superior is actually very decent against Cresselia, which I didn't really expect to see, but this Pokemon is such a strong Pokemon in the current meta. Superior is now everywhere as well, which I find actually really cool. Honestly, I don't mind Superior at all. I feel like it's a cool Pokemon to have in the meta. It's still beatable. There are a lot of Pokemon that completely hard counter this Pokemon. So I feel like it's a very solid pick right now, but also a very balanced pick. But I'm forced to go for the Night Slash here and hope that this is going to be enough to knock them out. I think it's barely not, and they have a move stored, but they don't throw the move for whatever reason. And now it's just a Steelix with next to no HP against a Greninja. Which of course is going to be game over for us. So let's take a look at the next opponent here. We're going to have the Obstagoon against us. This is going to be a fairly decent matchup for our Charger Bug, as they're going to go for the Night Slash. But of course they can swap out here, and it's going to be their own Trevenant against me. This is going to be actually fine, because Trevenant does not appreciate the Extra. You see how much damage we do, and we know already at this point we are going to be able to get basically the realignment here if I want to, and turns out I do want to. I'm going to use a shield against the Shadow Ball, which will be very decent for us, as we can now just start going for some more Exodus against the opponent's Drapion, and this is looking decent for us. But we're going to now be able to basically line our Greninja against the opponent. We can go for Hydro Cannon. This Hydro Cannon should get the knockout if they let this move go through, which they don't. And as we know that they have Awkward Tail, they're not running Such Bomb with this, so I can just let this move go through. But they, of course, gonna get the defense drop immediately, as well as, of course, Crunch did way more than I expected. They're gonna go for the Awkward Tail, as I'm gonna go for my own Night Slash, and I know that they're going to have another charge move stored at this point, but the opponent was able to just swap out into the Obstagoon, and like this, there's not a lot that I can really do about it. Like, there was not a lot that I can do about this entire game, to be fair. We had a horrible lead. We had Say-Swap, which we were actually able to realign, but we had to use an extra shield for it. And we were just having basically zero play for our Cresselia, which actually still does something here, at least with the Moonblast, but we're not going to get them into range where I can farm them all the way down. So that's going to be it for this game as well. And we can move on into the second to last game for today's video, which is going to be up against, let's take a look, we're going to have the Greninja against a Pelipper. Pretty bad lead for us. I can swap out into my Charger Bug. Yes, it's going to be my better answer, but it's going to be just, in general, the better Say-Swap compared to the Cresselia. I would not recommend you to use Cresselia as a Say-Swap in any team. It is just too weak against Steel-type Pokemon, and it's just so common that people have Steel-type Pokemon in the back, just completely hard-rolling you with it. So I would not recommend you to try it out at all as a Say-Swap. It's a great lead, it's a great closer, but not a Say-Swap. Speaking of good Say-Swaps though, Charger Bug is so strong in this meta right now, as we can just go for another charge move against the opponent. We see the Sableye coming back in, and we can just go for a shield against the potential return, which they sadly go for the foul play, as we can now see the Pelipper coming in. We will be able to just align our Pokemon correctly. We can take everything with our Cresselia. We're going to try to keep our shields for our squishy Greninja in the lead, and I can just go for the Moonblast, trying to chip away from the opponent as they're going to shield this move up. This is fine, even if they go for a Hurricane, it does not knock me out. I don't really care too much about it, and it's going to be just the Weather Ball spam, and I still should be able to survive another Weather Ball here, as I can just go for a Moonblast against the opponent. Should maybe even get the Switch Clock up, which would be very nice for us. Let's see. Yes, we can swap out here. Night Slash is here as well, which is going to take down the opponent's Sableye. We get another boost for this video, which is amazing, as this next Night Slash is going to get the knockout against the opponent. I would have won this game no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter if I got the boost there or not, but it's still kind of funny to get it. Final game for today. We're going to have a great lead here, and also a decent Say-Swap for us. We're going to see a lead of the Gligar, as well as a Say-Swap of the Lickitung, allowing me to get some extra energy, as well as I can now swap out into the Charger Bug, hopefully being able to realign, as I can take 2 Body Slams from the opponent. Charger Bug is just literally the perfect amount of bulk plus damage output. I really like this Pokemon in the meta. Definitely a cool Pokemon to use. Here we're going to still be able to go for another Exeter and either get 2 shields here, or we can realign, and they are going to let this move go through, allowing us to realign our Pokemon. Getting another charge move off here with the Exeter is going to put them into range for definitely Hadouken, of course. But we will see that I'm going to go for a bait first, which is a little bit tricky. Maybe they're going to call it, but they do not call it. And at this point, we're getting them fairly low to just a Night Stage, which is going to be amazing. As I can go for another fast move, and we can now see they're going to have the Lantern in the back. And this is going to be so nice for us. We can just go for a Grass Down on our Cresselia, which is a legacy move. Definitely worth checking out my video about the best legacy moves for the Great League as well for this season, which I recently uploaded. So definitely check that one out as well. But here we're going to now see the Thunderbolt. Actually, I don't even know when I uploaded this video, so could be already a few days ago or like a few weeks ago. Cannot really say right now, but you're going to see here right now the opponent is getting the move off against our Cresselia. We can let this move go through, and it's just our Greninja for the end of the game, sweeping them all, which is kind of fitting as an end for this video here right now, as we can now win the CMP tie afterwards. This was a lot of fun to play. I love Greninja, my favorite Pokemon, and it's great in both the teams here that you saw on the video, so definitely use them if you want to, and I see you then. Bye bye.